Obviously, all the sessions since morning has been about AI, and certainly everyone is excited about AI. And I represent Incubator. It's a company that develops websites, internet technologies for a lot of verticals. We started with healthcare space. Over 25 years, we possibly worked with about 300 to 400 healthcare websites across the United States, winning multiple platinum national awards. And these are days when internet was just a brochureware. So you just had information on, nothing transactional. And then we led to forms, things that you would fill in. And from there on, now with AI, where it's transforming and enriching lives with websites. And it all started, I'm sure, with I've spoken to Bill and many of you, where being part of the web team, we would be challenged with, marketing team would ask for like, hey, make this change, and you're just one group of one web developer or maybe two, or if it's a large health system, maybe three or four, and it's like you can't keep up with all the changes that you want to make on the content for the website. And then there was the need for content management system. So our first answer was put a WYSIWYG editor on a Perl script on an Apache web server on a Unix box to say that all you need is a pencil that you click on a page. It opens up the page content. You make the change, you save. Is this what you want? And they're like, absolutely. This is better than me waiting for your queue to catch up and my content being there, right? So we all have been there, and since then, here we are at a conference with Sitefinity CMS, which I think is one of the best content management systems out there, if not the best. And moving on. So we are headquartered now in Austin, Texas, but our roots are from Detroit. So I had to have a picture of a Model T. What really this means is that, Detroit has taught me a lot of things. And one of the things is transformation from horse carriages then to automobiles. And now where automobiles are moving from speed cars to whatnot to being electric cars. And now the car itself does not matter as much as the software that's running it. To the fact that GM itself is trying to evaluate, saying that our assets are a lot more, the worth of the assets that GM, Ford, and probably Chrysler own, Stellantis now, is much more than Tesla. But Tesla's stock and its net worth is, if you combine all those companies together, it's much more than that, right? And they're trying to figure out, okay, what's really happening, And they are now also transforming and trying to become a software company, because everything that you see now in the cars is all about how big is your screen, what all can it do, and things like that, right? Why is that important to us? And that's because for us, healthcare marketers or marketers in general, we are seeing the same thing, where I said, websites were more like brochureware. Then it was like, hey, we need to have more transactions. And from there on, making sure that we have the right connections, that are click to action buttons and things like that are important for us so that we can have that user engaged, right? And that all led to different things, and I have something I'll talk about in a little bit. And now AI is coming in and again transforming our lives to say, how do we market, how do we keep our teams engaged, our users engaged, and get the ROI, get them to convert. And this is no brainer. I mean, we have seen a lot of charts today, so I'm not going to bore you with one other. I have a few other things that but basically what it is the point that we are looking at it from a technology firm is that the traffic on our websites is actually reducing from the organic search, right? And what's happening is that more and more we're getting traffic from all of these AI bots. And the traffic is increasing exponentially, not just from ChatGPT, but other bots that are hitting our sites, right? And that's something important to take into consideration. And Google, of course, has also, and you've seen the news articles when ChatGPT became very popular, Google scrambled and immediately released Google Gemini and their AI bot because they had to. Obviously, they are a multi-billion-dollar company that relies on search revenue, and then losing their market share, losing that market share is not something that they're excited about. So they had to jump in and start working on that. So that's an important trend that we have to take a look at, is that the traffic that's coming onto our sites, Neil mentioned that as well, is that maybe the traffic from a user perspective, individual users that are coming to our site is reducing, but the quality of those users coming in is actually increasing. What I mean by that is, let's say 100,000 users come to your site, they came in, but only, let's say 5% of them or 10% of them converted. But now what we're seeing is, like, in terms of volume, maybe not 100,000 people are coming to the site, let's say 20,000 people are coming to the site, but then the conversion of that is actually increasing, conversion rate, right? Because of those 20,000 people, they've probably already researched your site, what you have to offer, and now they're interested in actually going to make a conversion. So that's what is important to take note. Right here, this is something that obviously Google is not happy about, and that's that the traditional search is going down 25%. Why is that? Because a lot of that traffic is going towards ChatGPT, the series of the world, where you can now ask questions and you're getting the answers right from the chatbot itself. So you don't have to go in and perform a Google search. Whereas I would say from 2010 to 2020, there was like, did you Google it, right? It's not about how did you make that search, but did you Google it? It was just what we were used to. And now the trend is where if you have the ChatGPT or some other AI chatbot on your paid subscription, you're going there and making a search, right? Neil mentioned, like, buying something from Amazon. If there's 3 or 4 things, I'm sure many of you also take all of those and say, hey, ChatGPT or whatever, like, give me all the data that I have on a side-by-side comparison table and show me which one I should go for, right? So that's something people are doing. The other thing to notice is that a lot of people are going to, let's say, Google or any other search engine, and they now have had rich snippets, which I'm sure that many of you are familiar with, gives you the answer to what you're looking for right there. And most of the time, that's what you're looking for. So you're not going to click, you're not going to do anything else. You're not going to go to your website, go to that website, and then you're done. So that's happening as well. And with all of that, basically the reason for that is that you're getting your instant, direct answers. The results are more personalized because it actually understands your sentiment, which is very important, of what you're asking, not just it gets the context of what you're asking. So that's why, it's been very, very beneficial for the consumers to use. And obviously there is less clutter, because before you would get pages and pages worth of links, which you would guess and click on, and then read on that website and then get to know what it is. Some more stats, obviously 24% are saying that they now start their journey on ChatGPT or some other kind of AI. And the number of AI resources, everyone out there, there's a lot of noise. Lots and lots of AI companies are springing up every day, and they have very, very specific things that they do. One of the examples I can give is like, so at a court system, judicial systems, they actually have to record all hearings and make them available in an archive for their official record. And then they have to produce that to an attorney or whoever that makes a request, has a valid request to be seen. So all of them have to be recorded. They also have to be transcribed. So there is an AI service for that, right? That can read that and go through that. Otherwise, it's a very, very costly affair. And with all the cuts that are happening, both at federal and state levels, it's a big challenge for the court systems to be able to still be able to do that. So this has actually cut down that and then helping. So basically what I'm trying to say is, like, if there is a need, a specific need, there's possibly an AI agent already built for that. Or if not, someone is actually thinking about it and probably getting released tomorrow. All right, so this one is talking about, just how the traffic is increasing on the chatbots. Again, something similar to what I was talking about, is that the search engine traffic has reduced by 2% just in 2 years, but the AI traffic is actually increasing, and you can just see that there is a small shift, but it's going to go more and more. Comes to what we think as incubator, and in general, I'm sure like many of you think, And I'll start with, if you guys remember, in the last 15 years, whenever you would do a new redesign, you would be asked to do a user group study. How many of you have done that or been part of one, right? For those of you don't know what it is, it's basically inviting different users, whether it's in the community or different personas, and you get them to a room where you show them different websites or your own website, and sort of doing an A/B testing to give them the opportunity to tell about what are the positives of the experience when they actually browse your website right there. And it's kind of like an FBI kind of a room where you're sitting behind dark glasses and you actually watch a group of people critique your website. Being part of it, being on the other side who actually develops or builds these websites, and working with marketing teams that spend a lot of time in doing card sorting and finding out personas and developing websites. Well, the main problem is like we could never get 100% of the people in the group to be happy with what the website should have. And the traditional websites, what do? We decide the navigation, we decide the form, we decide the layout, we decide how the form should proceed from step 1 to step 4 with all the rules and business logic that we want it to have, right? And with that, what happens is you cannot have 100% of the people satisfied, right? You can have the majority of the people satisfied, but not all of them, right? And this was always a problem, and I always used to think like, hey, there has to be a better option, right? And I feel like now is the opportunity for that to happen. So when we had to redesign, or any redesigns that we're doing right now, we are keeping that in mind. And what is that? Like, I talked about, having navigations and other things pre-built. It's a monolithic architecture. All of your APIs that were available on your website are all hidden. They're meant to be used by your forms, your website, but rather, exposing them outside. And then also the APIs were limited. If you had one big transactional workflow, you wouldn't expose the whole thing. You would basically expose just one basic API that's available, or even not expose any of them. So the change, I think, or any of these websites that we're building right now, is built on microservices. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it. And what this is about dividing your website into multiple smaller architecture components and allowing the user, and when I say user here, I'm talking very loosely, I mean actually AI bots and other things, so that it can subscribe to it. And it knows and is aware of all of the services that you have to offer, including any forms, multiple logic layers that you may have on the site, and exposing them so that AI can actually ingest that. So with this doesn't mean that we are the websites as we know of is going to end. It's not the case, because website is your entity. It's something that you own. You decide the rules. Whereas if you were to deploy your content on search engines, or sorry, not search engines, but social media sites, YouTubes of the world, they do actually decide, and they have some ground rules based on which you need to have your content or put content according to the structure that they want, right? But your website is something that you own. It's your gateway, and you decide how it's formatted. So I'm not talking about transforming websites so that it's no longer existent or websites will go away, but rather the websites now become more click to actions. Where you would have multiple pages of content, you rather would have FAQs and content that is available, but more importantly, focus on the CTAs right up and center so that people can click on it and then transact. And what will happen is all of your data that you may have, let's say in Sitefinity, you're breaking them down into multiple different modules and segments, which means that any of those can be then exposed through API, still securely. You can still put in all the rules, authentication. So let's say if I'm only a member and I'm a gold member, I have certain privileges, I have access to certain content, you could still do that. So let's talk about a scenario of this philosophy of when you develop things like this, is that you still have your website, you still have login that people can log in and get to access. But here's a scenario. If I am a gold member, I can now interact with the Siri on my phone. It knows my membership with this website already. It knows everything about me because I've let it know. And now I can simply say, for example, it's Delta Airlines. I can simply say, all right, find me the best flight from here to Florida in December, and I know the rates are very high. Pick the best slot. This is what I want to do. And what ChatGPT or some of these other AI bots are going to do is that if these API microservices were available, it will go ahead and look at all of that and plan everything for me, right? And it is only possible because of these microservices if you make it available from your website. Because you only care about conversion. Delta is only caring about, did you purchase the ticket, right? And did you purchase any other add-on features or add-on services that have to offer? So with that, I tell Siri this, it presents it, and I said, all right, go for it. Go ahead and book it. I didn't even touch the website, right? But it went ahead and did that for me, right? It's similar to like, OpenTable, the other websites that offer you like, reservations at a restaurant and things like that, same thing, right? We can do it. And it's already available. Most of us have websites that have these component-based development that we have done, but they're just not exposed. And I think time is right to do that because if not you, your competitor is going to do that. And they are going to be available in multiple avenues. Not only just ChatGPT, think about how we are surrounded by all of these devices now, right? Not just our smartphone, but if I get into my car, I have another smart, Tesla released Grok. I don't know if many of you are familiar with an AI bot in it, and it can actually do things for you, not 100% yet, but eventually. And how many of us have smart refrigerators, right? It can look inside the fridge and see what's, if the milk is 50% done or 25% done, automatically order things. Alexas, smart speakers, smart switches, smart thermostats. We are just surrounded by it. And it is so fundamental that if we don't have internet just for a few minutes, we'll all be panicking, right? So the idea is to provide this so that moving forward, we can use this for our benefit. And what does this do? It allows us or allows the consumers an avenue where their intent is being understood, right? Not just because I have a navigation and I have a form and they have to go through what I have decided for them on my website, but rather they can actually use whatever tool they want and be able to do these things. Provide a question, you process that and synthesize what they're asking for, plan and execute, and finally present a tailored answer. That's what, the analogy of what I was saying. If I was planning a trip to Florida, I did all of those transactions, including booking a hotel, booking a car rental, making a travel flight ticket reservation, things like that, all through one conversation with my personal assistant and getting it through without me touching those websites, but it touching those. So now talking about Third Circuit Court, which is the largest court system in Michigan. They've been our client for 15 years now. And what's challenging here is that court system does not have a marketing team. They don't have to market someone to say like, hey, come to us, right? It's not going to happen, right? So there isn't a marketing budget. Most of the times, these systems, that's why they don't spend a lot of money. They don't have that money. The state is not going to provide them those dollars, right? But the main mission is to provide service to the community, to make sure that people can find information that they need for, especially in court cases and things like that. They're already stressed. So how can we make it help? Or a juror where they're already panicked that they got picked. And now they're like, how do I fit this in my weekly plan, whether I should do it or not? So how do we make it easy for them? And especially with Third Circuit Court, it's in Wayne County, Detroit. And the demographics, the users are not technology savvy. They don't have access to multiple devices. Many of them go to the library to access the internet or maybe smartphones and things like that. So how do we make it accessible? So we looked at all of that. We also looked at data of searches that people were performing. And then just a quick talk on that, just the transition of sites. I talked about when the first sites were built, there was more brochureware. The next came transformation, so you have forms, and then SEO, schema, and then the latest trend before AI is that, hey, we need to have search. Search used to be a small icon on the top right-hand side, but then now most websites, search is in the center because of the same philosophy that, hey, let the users find what they want. Let us not force them. They don't know where that content that they're looking for is hidden, right? So if you put it right there in the middle, they can actually search for what they want. So we've had that for a while, and we use that data to see, okay, what are people searching for, right? And we use some of that information to actually feed in the AI bot that we have now built for this site. And the court's pain points were that I mentioned there were different demographics. Time is critical because most people are busy and they have a court case or an attorney who's attending multiple cases in a day, and they're trying to find, like, hey, if this court hearing was rescheduled, when is that? Where is that? Can I get notifications so that I get notified? Can I remotely check in so that the judge and the judicial assistant know that, hey, I'm here in the building, I'm just attending a different session, and things like that. The language barriers, right? If the content is only in English, but court cases could be for anyone, like anyone who was in the area and supposedly got into a car accident or whatever that is, we have to support all of that. And then it has to be mobile access as well, because we know that many of the users are not on a desktop computer, with full width at their access, but rather smaller screens and even possibly slower mobile devices. So our approach was to apply an AI engine towards it and provide the conversational support and setting up the intelligent reminders as well. And this is how it looks. It's actually not launched yet. We are in a user study right now, and we are doing a couple of things behind the scenes, testing it out, and then after that, it's going to get launched. So the way we did it, so you can now ask a question that says, hey, as a first-time juror, what should I expect when I get to the court? And it now gives you a summary of everything. In fact, it even gives you, like, if I'm late, what to do, or like, hey, if I'm late, do you want me to inform? Things like that. So basically more transactional, more just-in-time things. So for example, you should be able to communicate with Siri and say, like, hey, I'm getting late for this. Can you just email whoever I need to email and let them know? And it will do it because it knows who you are, right? What we also did is for now, we're going to keep the current search results as well, just because they might, we want to actually not completely take it away because users are used to it. So until the user behavior change, we want to provide both of them. And I talked about building the websites with microservices, small components. You wouldn't think the court website has so many different avenues, but here's all the microservices that we looked at and is now being offered to the general public. So it's not that you come to our website and then use our schema to understand our content, because it still is good. So we apply judge schema for those of you who know what structured data is, and you pick a schema. So we do have that, right? And it allows the Google and other AI bots to understand content. But we went one step beyond, is to actually provide them access to these gateways, to these microservices that they can actually consume themselves, and provide access to them to also query it. So it's not just giving them a list, but they can actually query it. And for example, case reminder service, and say, like, hey, this is me, so and so, and it will go ahead and find all your court hearings and say, hey, would you want me to set a reminder? And you could do that. So this is the philosophy that I feel like we as technologists, marketers, should think about how our website should be designed for the future. And with that being said, the results in the initial case studies that we are doing before we launch this fully has been very positive. They're just thrilled with using that, the AI service that we are offering. But I think the fruits of having microservices behind the website is going to be much more when they start using it and they don't even realize that we have done this. but we already have this on our website. And like I said, this is just the beginning. I mentioned something about the Internet of Things, right? The smart fridge. We don't even know. Like we've talked about, like smart chips being embedded into into our body. Smart glasses. How many of you saw that release of the Meta display glasses? Right? Aren't you guys excited about that? But at the same time, scary, right? Because I could just be wearing glasses and just by seeing you and having a conversation with you, I can know everything about you, right? So it's just, don't know where things are going, but it's becoming a reality. And we want, what's important for the business is the conversion. And, and we have to provide that in an easy way so that the conversions can happen. Whether it happens on our website or not, conversions and ROI is important. Again, in line with everything that we have learned since morning. And that's the end. Thank you so much.
I have two questions.
Yes.
So one is related to the search engine that you guys built for the court.
Mm-hmm.
So is there some sort of like high search intent journey that you guys put in place in front of the LLM?
We did. Because it has to be polite. There's a lot of things that we had to make sure that we trained it, because there could be, it's a public service, it's a public offering, public stage. So we had to make sure that if someone is trying to abuse it, or so that it wouldn't respond to those things. So we do have put a lot of measures on top of it. That's just part of the behavioral side of it. But there's a lot of other things in terms of some data that someone should not be able to see. Let's say in a juvenile case, you should not be able to see the demographics of a case. So things like that, guardrails have been put in place. Yeah.
So my second question is related to the trend that you have seen, where the trend of organic search has gone down because of the Google AI feature. So what kind of strategy do you put in place to at least just not the conversion, but at the top funnel level to address it? Like the traffic is going down, but what we can put in place to address it. And this is the same trend that we have seen on our side in our business as well. It's not just organic searches, but it's also the paid advertisements as well.
And that's a very good question. And I think you should go back to the business team and say, like, the user traffic is going down, but that's not something we should be worried about. What we should be worried about is, like, is our content showing up in all these channels, right? Performing searches and all of that. There's a lot of tools available that will tell you. We just had a client. We don't have a single salesperson in our team, so our work is our biggest sales tool that we use. And we just had a client from Cleveland contact us because they heard of us from ChatGPT, and we are like, "What did you type?" But the biggest thing is, like, none of the SEO strategies have changed, right? You have to make sure that you're using structured data wherever and everywhere possible. You're writing content more in a format of FAQs. All of the general strategies that you have to apply. You cannot do fake links and keyword stuffing and all of that does not apply anymore, obviously, but that hasn't been a case for last few years. So I would say you would still emphasize on content, not just what is on your website, on the pages, but also if you do expose APIs, you have to make sure that that content that it's giving out, all the parameters that you're giving out make sense, they're worded properly, there is a meta file that goes along with it that tells you what you're exposing and what the data is. So now when the AI chatbots or Google Gemini or any of these consume it, what's important for them to see is, like, if you're a business that sells insurance, is to give all the options of insurance, comparisons of different options, what's the best one, and then finally having a CTA that says, if you're ready, click here, and then having the ROI.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.